Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So, good evening, dear ones. Good evening. We've gathered, as we usually do on Tuesday evenings, to study the life of Holy Mother. As we know, Holy Mother had been on pilgrimage in South India, and so now the subhead reads, Return from South India. Holy Mother and her companions returned to Madras on 28 March and then left for Puri on 1 April 1911 by train. Ramakrishnananda's health broke down due to the excessive strain from this trip, so Nirmalananda took responsibility for traveling with the mother. He arrived in Madras from Bangalore in the morning and left with the mother that evening. On the way, they stopped at, Rajamundry?
Rajamundry, yes.
In Andhra Pradesh, where they were the guests of Dewan Bandhur M.O. something, the judge of the Godavari district. Ramakrishnananda had arranged for Holy Mother and her party to rest there for a day. Mr. Iyengar was a scholar and spoke with Nirmalananda in Sanskrit about the scriptures. His home was on the bank of the Godavari River, so the mother and her companions got a chance to bathe there. The party left for Rajamundry on 3 April and reached Kudra Road Station at 1:30 the next morning. There they changed trains and arrived at Puri on the same day. Holy Mother stayed at Shashi Niketan for nearly a week and visited the Lord Jagannath every day. On 10 April, the mother and her party left for Puri by the fast passenger train at 6 o'clock in the evening, reaching Calcutta on Tuesday morning, 11 April 1911. On 17 April, Holy Mother wrote to Ramakrishnananda that she had reached Calcutta safely and was well. Let me see if I can do better with these other glasses. Well, maybe. She sent her blessings to him. One day, in the course of conversation about her pilgrimage to South India, Holy Mother remarked, Shashi spent about 1,000 rupees. Another day she said, finally the Master's words have come true. I have seen so many places, such as Madras, Rameshwaram, and Bangalore, where he did not go. Perhaps she meant that the Master visited these places through her. I'm sure that's what she meant, since she said over and over that I and the Master are one. The Master and myself are one being in two forms. That was her as well as Sri Ramakrishna's message about who they were. We shall conclude the Mother's South Indian pilgrimage by telling of an incident that took place at Rameshwaram. As soon as Holy Mother saw the uncovered image of Lord Rameshwar, she exclaimed, "I see it is just the same as when I placed it here." Now it was Sita, of course, who placed that there. She exclaimed, "I see it is just the same as when I placed it here." When asked by the devotees what she meant, she controlled herself and then said with a smile, "Never mind, I was absent-minded. It was a slip of the tongue." Of course it wasn't. She remembered, just like the Master remembered, her past incarnations as the Divine Presence. As already mentioned, according to the Rameshwaram Stala Purana, it was Sita who installed the image of Rameshwar. On several occasions, Holy Mother spoke of her identity with Sita. Although she behaved like a human being, Holy Mother could not always hide her divine nature. Kedar, later Swami Keshavananda, and Brahmachari Bharata came from Kualpura Ashram. Kedar, later Swami Keshavananda, and Brahmachari Bharata came from Kualpura Ashrama when they heard the Holy Mother had returned to Calcutta. When Kedar asked Holy Mother about the pilgrimage, she said, "I brought 2 pictures of Lord Rameshwara for Kualpura Ashrama. Please frame them nicely and worship them." Kedar replied, "Mother, you have already installed the Master on the altar and asked us to worship him as the embodiment of all gods and goddesses. Now you are giving us these pictures of Lord Shiva. How many deities shall we worship? It is better that we should not worship other deities." "All right," she responded, "but frame these pictures and hang them on the wall of the shrine." There's the limited idea of what we should do and the unlimited idea of what we should do. Mother's, of course, was always more likely to be the unlimited version. "All right," she responded, "but frame these pictures and hang them on the wall of the shrine." If you remember, the Master in his room had pictures of many deities, and he worshipped them morning and evening, primarily by waving incense and chanting. So this was not something novel. It was simply the Swami was being limited in his thinking. Those 2 pictures were later hung on either side of the altar at Kualpura Ashram. Kedar then asked, "Mother, tell us about everything that you saw at Rameshwaram." The Mother replied, "The image exists there intact, just as I placed it." So once again, she affirmed this. Kedar then asked, "Mother, tell us about everything that you saw at Rameshwaram." The Mother replied, "The image exists there intact, just as I placed it." Golapma was passing through the veranda and overheard Holy Mother's words. She asked, "Mother, what did you say?" Embarrassed, the Mother said, "Never mind. What have I said? I just said that I was overjoyed seeing the image I had heard about from you." Oh, Mother dissembling is always so entertaining because she's not very good at it. So she said, Golapma was passing through the veranda and overheard Holy Mother's words. She asked, "Mother, what did you say?" Embarrassed, the mother said, "Never mind, what have I said? I just said that I was overjoyed seeing the image I had heard about from you all." Smiling, Golap Ma said, "It is not so, mother. I heard everything clearly. Now you can't retract your words. What do you say, Kedar?" Golap Ma reported this to Yogan Ma and others. Well, of course she would. These women were mother's companions and had asked, the story goes, asked for a dispensation, a boon, that they could be born with her in this most recent incarnation. Holy Mother once said to one of her disciples, "The master could not touch money. He had a vision of Sita in the Panchavati, wearing diamond-cut bangles, and he had 2 bangles made for me in that same design." With his divine eyes, Ramakrishna saw that in one of her previous incarnations, Sarada Devi had been Sita. I would say with divine eyes, I think it goes beyond that. I think these two did actually remember. I think I told you the story of Krishna and Rukmini, his queen, in Dwaraka. We are told that Hanuman, who assisted, of course, Rama in the destruction of Ravana and his kingdom, is ever existing. So during the reign of Krishna and Rukmini in Dwaraka, some attendant came in and said, "Oh, Hanuman is here. He wants to see you." And so Krishna said to Rukmini, "Oh, we must assume our forms as Rama and Sita. Otherwise, he will be sorely disappointed." And so they did that. That's how the story goes. And so it shouldn't be any surprise that Mother remembered being Sita and that Sri Ramakrishna remembered her being Sita. So we're now at chapter 22, Last Visit to Varanasi. Now this has some remarkable incidents in it. I'm very glad that we've come to this now. Last Visit to Varanasi. Krishna to Arjuna. This is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10. Anyway, Krishna to Arjuna. The waters of holy rivers, or images made with clay and stone from a holy place, do not form a tirtha, a holy place. Those things take a long time to purify people. So let's just say Krishna to Arjuna. The waters of holy images, or images made with clay and stone from a holy place, do not form a tirtha, a holy place, a place of pilgrimage. These things take a long time to purify people, but by virtue of God residing in their hearts, saints purify by their mere sight. Now, why is this important to us? Why did the Swami include this? Not just because what's in this chapter, but these pictures Hmm? They are not just matter. They are not just some dye on a paper. We are told, and Swami Prabhavananda and Swami Swahananda were both very emphatic about this, that these pictures are the master. And for that matter, Holy Mother was emphatic about the fact that the master's picture was alive. So Swami Swahananda said, "Oh, it's good to come to pujas," he said, "because the deity being worshipped sees who's there and takes note." So this is a reality beyond our limited ability to understand it. That these pictures, these images, are alive. So they are able to purify by their mere sight. Hmm. So we start the chapter. Last visit to Varanasi. Everyone encounters grief or misery at some point in their lives. One should not grieve over the unavoidable. When someone dies or a serious mishap occurs, an ignorant person remains depressed for a long time. A wise person suffers briefly and then turns the grief-stricken mind turns the grief-stricken mind to a higher plane of consciousness where the pairs of opposites cannot cause suffering. I'm going to repeat that again. When someone dies or a serious mishap occurs, an ignorant person remains depressed for a long time. A wise person suffers briefly and then turns the grief-stricken mind to a higher plane of consciousness where the pairs of opposites cannot cause suffering. Now, I'll just remind you, this is Swami Chetanananda that is now writing. This is his considered opinion after all these years as a Swami and as a minister. Many years. I first met him in 1973 when he was serving as an assistant to Swami Prabhavananda at the Hollywood Center of the Vedanta Society of Southern California. He is still alive, still working, and is the head minister and in charge of the Vedanta Society of St. Louis. So if you have any questions or comments about this book, you can call him up at the St. Louis Center and get him on the phone. He will talk with you. I know he will. He has talked with many devotees since I've been here. So, and by implication, I'm encouraging you to do it if you have any reason to. It's really a treat to talk with that Swami. So, the wise person turns the grief-stricken mind to a higher plane of consciousness where the pairs of opposites cannot cause suffering. This can be done through discrimination, devotion to God, studying the scriptures, observing how great teachers dealt with similar situations, seeking out holy company, and going on pilgrimage. Holy company and pilgrimages quickly uplift a depressed mind. Holy Mother experienced great joy to her. Holy Mother experienced great joy during her pilgrimage to South India, but sadness was soon to follow. She suffered, as do all human beings, and she taught us there is no wealth equal to contentment and no quality equal to forbearance. Holy Mother suffered, as do all human beings, and she taught us there is no wealth equal to contentment and no quality equal to forbearance. Holy Mother returned to Calcutta on 11 April 1911, and on 12 May, Nivedita came to see her before leaving for Darjeeling. If you remember, Nivedita left Calcutta, went to Darjeeling, and that's where she passed away. This was the last time that this was the last time that Holy Mother, this was the last time that Holy Mother and Nivedita met. Holy Mother was grief-stricken when Nivedita passed away 5 months later. Nivedita also left the body quite young. I don't remember her age, but after she became Swami Vivekananda's disciple and started her work in India, she was a veritable powerhouse. She just worked and worked and worked and worked and spoke and taught and led that school and so on. So she went away to Darjeeling, and then, which is of course a very auspicious place and a very pleasant place, and that's where she left the body. 5 months after seeing Mother on the 12th of May, 1911. We might pause here. It's getting close to the half hour, and just to see if anyone has any thoughts or comments or questions that they'd like to offer about what we've read or about anything else having to do with Holy Mother and what's been said about her.
Yes, Brother Shankara, I have a question.
Yes, Sham.
What I want to ask you is, did Ramakrishna tell Holy Mother that she was Sita at any time? Because he doesn't appear to have said that to her at any time.
I agree with you. He doesn't appear to have said that to her at any time. What happened during that puja, where the two of them communed, I believe it's Shodashi Puja, is that correct?
Yes, Shodashi, yes.
What happened during that time? It may be part of the oral tradition in the Ramakrishna order, but I've never seen it written down, except that they communed and recognized that they were one in spirit. So what passed between them at that time, Sham, I certainly can't say. And I've never heard anyone say it, other than that they had a transcendental communion. They both went into samadhi. And so what happened in those moments and what they experienced and what they knew as a result of having had that experience is not known to us, at least not known here. As I say, there are many things in the oral tradition of the Ramakrishna order that are not written down anywhere.
And I have a second question too, because you said that he saw Sita in the Panchavati.
Yes.
So how is that possible? Because Holy Mother was...
Sita came to him and told him she was bequeathing him her smile. That's when he had been worshiping Rama. I think Ramlala. I think he had been worshiping Rama as Ramlala, the baby Rama.
Yeah, but at that time, where was the Holy Mother then at that time?
I believe she was still in Jairambati and had not yet come to Dakshineshwar at all. That's my recollection. I could be wrong, and if anyone has a more accurate recollection, they should correct me. But I think this was during the time that he was practicing those sadhanas, he had this vision of Sita, and she told him she was bequeathing him her smile. That story is in the gospel. You can find it in the gospel.
Yes.
It's narrated in more detail
Yeah.
in the Master's Divine Play or the Great Master, the two translations of Saradananda's definitive biography of Sri Ramakrishna. I'm reasonably certain that it was some years yet before Holy Mother came. She was probably 12 or 13 years old at the time that this incident happened.
But then, how can there be two Sitas?
Namaste.
One was real.
Sham, namaste, Shailesh here.
Yes.
I understand, Sham, what you are trying to say here, but we have to understand that when we say that someone incarnated, like Mother was incarnation of Sita, those properties get manifested in that being completely. And now in Mother's case, when she said she was Sita in the previous life, that would have been, it's mysterious, but the principle can be in two different places at the same time. It's our human mind which will try to wrap around it, saying that, oh, it's only one person. It's not that person. It's the principle, the properties which get manifested. I had this doubt too. But whenever someone says that he was an avatar, like Neem Karoli Baba was an avatar of Hanuman. Okay, Neem Karoli Baba from Uttar Pradesh, and who was very influential among the Westerners. But if you see, all those properties were, he said about this, that all those properties were manifested in him, and sometimes people saw him as Hanuman. But otherwise, so those properties, that's how it is. It's not one, just like we think. That's my understanding.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your explanation.
And there is at least one incident in the Master's life in which he was seen simultaneously in two places. In Dakshineshwar, or was it Kashipur? I don't remember now where the Master's form was, in or near Calcutta. And at the same time, he was seen and conversed with in Dhaka.
Yeah, it was Vijay Goswami he appeared to.
Yes. And and this was reliably reported. So our minds, our finite minds, are not capable of understanding. Vivekananda said to his brother disciples, "You don't understand him at all. I understand him a little, but only a little," of Sri Ramakrishna. And I'm sure he would have said the same thing of Holy Mother. I mean, when Vivekananda came back from the West and Holy Mother was praising him for his achievements there, he just bowed to her and said, "Oh, Mother, we all know that by your mere wish, you could raise up thousands of Vivekanandas." So, our Western reductionist way of thinking, and it's something that I'm not pointing any fingers. It's also here. I study the findings of science all the time, but we mustn't be confined to that. We mustn't think that that's one way of pursuing truth. but it's not the truth. Anything else? That was a very good question and discussion, and thank you, Shailesh, for chiming in. And this is exactly what's meant by studying this art of spirituality together.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone?
Yes, Brother Shankara, I would like
Yes,
to
sir.
make a remark about what you said about what the Swami said about the pictures. And I've been going to sleep every night with a picture of the master next to my bedside, and it's been really incredible, just like going to sleep and then waking up and seeing Sri Ramakrishna.
Beautiful, Aaron. Beautiful. The living presence is there. This is asserted by the Swamis and most emphatically by Holy Mother. Thank you, Aaron. And I'm really glad you're having those experiences. They will lift you up and purify you.
Yes, it just helps to like start the day.
Yes.
I mean, because you're starting the day out in a positive way as soon as you wake up with a picture of Sri Ramakrishna right next to you.
Yes,
So.
exactly. And if you can remember to offer the day to him, the day and all it contains, at that moment, that will further uplift your experience of the day. This is what Krishna says to do in chapter 4 of the Gita. Anything else? Okay. So as I said, on 12 May 1911, Nivedita left for Darjeeling, and now we pick up the narrative. 5 days after Nivedita left Calcutta, Holy Mother went to Jairambati to be present at Radhu's wedding, which took place on 10 June 1911. At the time, Swami Ramakrishnananda was seriously ill in Madras. As you remember, he had gotten ill as a result of his exertions on behalf of Mother's pilgrimage, and so he was still ill. At the time, Swami Ramakrishnananda was seriously ill in Madras. So Swamis Brahmananda and Sardananda asked him to come to Calcutta for treatment. Now, this was not just an idle request. Brahmananda was the president of the order, and Sardananda was the general secretary. So both the spiritual head and the temporal head of the order asked him to come to Calcutta, and it was not a simple request. It was come. So Brahmananda and Sardananda asked him to come to Calcutta for treatment. He arrived at Udbodhan House on 10 June, and several physicians began to treat him. He urgently desired to see Holy Mother, but she could not leave Jairambati. However, the mother appeared to him before his death in her subtle body. We were just talking about being in two places at one time. However, the mother appeared to him before his death in her subtle body, and Ramakrishnananda saw her and exclaimed, "Ah, the mother has come." On 21 August 1911, Ramakrishnananda passed away. When the mother heard the sad news, she remarked, "Alas, Shashi has gone. My back is broken." Now, can anyone interpret for us from the perspective of the vernacular of West Bengal and Mother's way of speaking, what is the portent? What is the full meaning of saying her back is broken? Can anyone expand on that for us? I mean, we all have some idea of what someone with a broken back is severely impaired.
I would say, Swamiji, that it means that she's paralyzed.
Paralyzed. Thank you, Michaela.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I'm not from West Bengal, but I'm thinking, my mind is thinking, my back is broken. When she said that, I think he was the backbone for her, doing all the help, everything. Shashi was her backbone. She always complimented. She always said, with him, everything gets done in time.
No, that's Saradananda you're speaking of.
Okay.
Ramakrishnananda was responsible for the work in South India. And of course, she did highly value him and spoke, but it was Saradananda, first Yogananda and then Saradananda that she spoke of, as you just mentioned.
Right, but Shashi is the one who used to take care of her, right?
No.
She called him Shashi.
No,
No.
not Shashi.
Okay.
Sharat was the one.
That was
who
the
would
one.
take
Okay,
care
I
of-
understood. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
Shashi was sent to South India quite early on
I see.
to start the work in Madras.
I see. So,
But mother, of course,
mhm.
though Brahmananda and Saradananda were nominally the spiritual and temporal head of the order, it was really the mother that was the head of the order.
I see.
And so Shashi would not have been sent, Ramakrishnananda would not have been sent to South India without consulting her and without her full support.
Mhm.
And of course, we see what he did for her when she went to South India. He just strove to make that visit as
Yeah,
effortless and as seamless and as wonderful in every way as it could possibly be.
made it so smooth for her. The whole trip, he made it very, very smooth for her in South India.
Yes.
I thought maybe she's meaning that my back is broken means my backbone. He was my backbone. I feel like my back is broken type of expression,
Well,
figurative sense. That's what I was.
I'm sure there's some of that there. I'm sure you're right, Haima, that there's some of that. But he was the one that she really depended on after Yogananda passed away. The one she really depended on was Sharat, Swami Saradananda.
Sorry. Thank you, Brother Shankara, for clarification.
I think I think she meant that her spiritual channel and support had been severed, and now she was going to have to do it herself. That channel that he was a channel to her. He was channeling the spiritual energy and the spiritual knowledge and information was coming from him to her.
Very interesting perspective, Robert.
Now that has stopped, and now she's going to have to use another channel, or she's going to have to do it herself.
Very interesting perspective. Well, let's see how the story develops and see what it is that she did have to do. Very well said. Okay, on 24 November 1911, so on 24 November 1911, Holy Mother returned to Calcutta from Jairambati. A few months later, on February 1912, on 8 February 1912, Holy Mother grieved when Girish Ghosh passed away. After enduring the loss of her dearest ones, the mother expressed a desire to make a pilgrimage to Varanasi. Now, Varanasi is known as a place of departure. It's said if you leave the body in Varanasi, liberation is yours. That's the story about Varanasi. Now, of course, Holy Mother wasn't thinking of leaving the body in 1911, but after enduring the loss of her dearest ones, Ramakrishnananda and then Girish Ghosh within months of each other, the mother expressed a desire to make a pilgrimage to Varanasi. It was a great privilege to go on a pilgrimage with Holy Mother. So when her relatives and devotees heard that she was going to Varanasi, many of them wished to join her party. Ultimately, Holy Mother's companions included Radhu, Surabala, Maku, and Budeb,
Buddha.
Aunt Banu, Kedar's mother, Golap Ma, M's wife, Mahamaya Mitra, Vibhuti Ghosh. Does anyone know as Vibhuti Ghosh was that Girish Ghosh's widow? I don't remember. Dr. Kanilal's wife, and mother-in-law and several attendants. It's quite a large party. That was expensive. This was going to cost a lot of rupees. On 4 November 1912, Holy Mother and her companions left Calcutta by train. They arrived at Moghul Sarai the next day and continued by another train to Varanasi. As the train passed over the bridge over the Ganges, the mother was delighted by the view of golden Varanasi. Many of the buildings there, their domes and parapets are gold-leafed. There's gold leaf. So as the train passed over the bridge on the Ganges, the mother was delighted with the view of golden Varanasi. At the Varanasi station, the party disembarked. The thoughtful Brahmananda arranged a palanquin for Holy Mother so she would not have to cross the bridge over the rail lines, which entailed climbing many steps. You can imagine your mother had these rheumatism in her legs, particularly her knees. So climbing steps was difficult for her. So Brahmananda arranged the thoughtful Brahmananda, president of the order, Raja Maharaj, arranged a palanquin for Holy Mother so she would not have to cross the bridge over the rail line, which entailed climbing many steps. Holy Mother and her party arrived at Ramakrishna Advaita Ashrama at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You can still visit, if you go yourself there to this ashrama, Ramakrishna Advaita Ashrama, and the Sevashram there, you can visit the places where Mother visited. You can place your hands on the table where Holy Mother took her meals. You can see the 10 rupee note, I think it's 10 rupee note, that she gave the ashrama, which is framed and there on the wall. Holy Mother and her party arrived at Ramakrishna Advaita Ashrama at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The ashrama was beautifully decorated. Swamis Brahmananda, Shivananda, Turiyananda, Vijnananda and others received the mother. Oh, what a party that must have been. I mean, really, what joy. Swamis Brahmananda, Shivananda, Turiyananda, Vijnananda. So from the very first monastic disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, Brahmananda, to the last one, Vijnananda, this spanned that whole, and the ones in between, of course, Shivananda and Turiyananda, they were the ones who were part of that, those boys that were part of the master's training and also took such care of him at Kashipur. We'll hear about that on Kalpataru Day. So Brahmananda, Shivananda, Turiyananda, Vijnananda, and others received the mother. Swami Shantananda wrote, when the mother got down from the palanquin, Brahmananda told an attendant, hold the mother so that she will not fall. Brahmananda told an attendant, hold the mother so she will not fall. It was a wonderful scene to see. The mother sat on a chair, wearing her veil as usual, and the disciples and devotees bowed down to her. After a brief rest in the ashrama, she went to Lakshmi Nivas, which was her residence while in Varanasi. This house belonged to the Kirandatta's family, It was a new house with many rooms and was close to the ashrama. When she saw the wide veranda, the mother remarked, we are rather fortunate that we have got this residence. A narrow place narrows the mind, while a commodious place expands it. Holy Mother and her women companions lived upstairs, and the monks and men devotees stayed downstairs. Okay, we've got some few minutes. We can read on, or we can have a few minutes conversation if there's anything that anyone would like to say or ask. Oh, there is a picture of this 10 rupee note donated to the Home of Service, the Sevashrama, by Sarada Devi. So there's a picture of it in the book. Okay. On 6.
I have a question.
Yes, Robert.
The separation of the sexes in the living quarters, did that have to do with their considerations of what other people might think if they were not separated, or was it something that they felt a necessity to do?
It was very much a cultural thing at that time. It was, it would have simply been seen as very bizarre, unseemly, if they had lived on the same floor. As a matter of fact, it's a little unusual that they even lived in the same house. But this was the Holy Mother, she didn't bow to every little convention. If they had been in Jairambati, if you remember in Jairambati, they actually lived in separate houses. The women lived in one and the men lived in another. But there weren't houses with more than one story there. So it was cultural, Robert. It was, and I'm sure that due to the mother's shyness and modesty, the fact that she was veiled in the presence of men all the time, except when she was in Jairambati, it would have made her very uncomfortable to have men living in the same quarters. So, this was a different time and place. And I don't think it was a matter so much of what other people would say, because, as I said, even for them to all to live together in the same house would have been something remarkable for the time. But so that's the best I can do. If anybody else has anything to offer that would be more enlightening to what as to what Robert asked.
I can add something to it. It is cultural. Even now, uh, if it is a family member of a male, the person can live with the family members, but not outside the family members. Even now, women don't live in the same room, or it is culturally, I guess, that's, I would say. Even now, we practice the same way in a lot of places in India, all over India. You know, it has become modern a little bit, but still things are still followed the same cultural expectations, and it's a personal preference, actually. Personal prefer that way.
Well, thank you, Jaime.
That's all I could say. Thank you.
Well, Mother wouldn't, if she was with her women companion, she wouldn't have to wear a veil all the time. She wouldn't have to be as scrupulously modest, And I'm sure that carries over into the present time as well.
Mhm.
That's why it is so absolutely remarkable in the life of the master that he took on the life of a woman for a time as part of his sadhana and actually lived with the women of Mathur Babu's family, and they accepted him totally and behaved with him just as if he was a woman. It was truly a startling incident, more than an incident, a period in the master's life. You can read about that in some detail in The Great Master or The Divine Play. There's quite a bit about it. And people couldn't tell it was Sri Ramakrishna. Mathur provided him with all of the clothing and jewelry and all of the things, and he behaved just exactly as a woman.
Yeah.
Even by, this seems strange to us to think of this, but apparently women in that time would always start, if they stood up, if they started walking, they would start walking with their left foot rather than their right foot. Men started walking with their right foot. When the master became a woman, and I say became a woman because he was indistinguishable from the women, even to Mathur, who knew him very, very well. So when he walked, he started his walk on his left foot. On 6 November 1912, Holy Mother went to visit Lord Vishwanath and Annapurna in the morning by palanquin. Her women companions accompanied her in a horse carriage. Swami Arupananda
Yes.
and some attendants also came. Swami Arupananda and some attendants also came. So Arupananda was a second generation Swami. The Vishwanath temple is always crowded. So the priest and the mother's attendants escorted Holy Mother so that she and her companions could freely worship the Lord. She visited Mother Annapurna afterwards and then returned to her residence. Kali Puja was held at Ramakrishna Advaita Ashrama on Saturday, 9 November. Holy Mother was invited, but she could not attend. However, at 10 o'clock in the morning, the next day, now the Kali Puja, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a night puja. It begins at sundown and traditionally ends at dawn. and it has a number of so-called watches during the night where various things are done, and it's a very elaborate worship and puja. It's still done in a somewhat abbreviated form in the Hollywood ashrama, the Hollywood temple. At Swami Prabhavananda's time in the 50s and 60s, it was done, it was an all-night affair like that. It started at dusk. And so Holy Mother didn't attend the night puja, and it doesn't say why she could not attend, and I don't remember reading why. Maybe she wasn't feeling well, I don't know. However, at 10 o'clock in the morning the next day, she went to Advaita Ashrama and sat in front of the deity for some time. They don't immediately immerse the deity, so it would have been there for the mother to commune with. And this is what I'm reading, that she was sitting in front of the deity. She was communing with the deity because the deity was still, in that sense, alive. On 25 November 1912, Swami Shivananda wrote to a devotee, "This year Kali Puja and Jagadatri Puja were held in the ashrama with great éclat." The éclat is a French word meaning distinction and fervor and intensity. With great éclat. Holy Mother was staying in a house near our ashrama, and she came to attend the worship. Now, I think that means the Jagadatri, not the Kali, because we were just told she didn't attend that. So she was staying in a house near our ashrama, and she came to attend the worship. The deities came to life when she offered flowers. She brought a current of ecstasy, bliss, and purity into the devotees' hearts. Holy Mother was staying in a house near our ashram, and she came to attend the worship. The deities came to life when she offered flowers. She brought a current of ecstasy, bliss, and purity into the devotees' hearts. Now that is not something that has gone away. If you attend, even though it's going to be done by Zoom, Aditya Chaturvedi is going to do Holy Mother's Puja on January 3rd. And you will feel that current of ecstasy, bliss, and purity if you attend, even by Zoom. There are no limitations with time and space by these beings. So I'm going to end it there because now it's taking a turn. It's 8:59. Are there any comments or questions that we can end the reading and discussion with? Anything at all from anyone? All right.
I wanted to remark it would be a true blessing to visit that pilgrimage site you were discussing earlier about the
Oh yes.
The note.
Yeah. And be able to put your hands on the table. When I visited in 1999, it was actually in October, late October, early November. I don't remember the dates exactly now. 1999. The Swami in charge was called by everyone Ananda Maharaj. Ananda Maharaj, which means love or bliss. And he was just such a uplifting spirit. And he treated all of us, I was traveling with a group of fellows. He treated all of us like his long lost sons. And he showed us that 10 rupee note. He said, come, put your hands on this table. This is where the mother took her meals, and so on. And it was, and then we were able to worship in the Advaita Ashrama temple, where mother worshipped and where she was. So, and we were reminded constantly of, of the actual places where she sat, where she stood, where she performed a worship, and so on. The swamis and the attendants were very attentive in that way.
Was her presence noticeable, like her subtle body?
I can't say, Aaron, that her presence was noticeable as distinct from the extremely holy and uplifting presence of the whole place. I mean, it is really quite an experience to visit Varanasi. And that ashrama and the Sevashrama. The Sevashrama means hospital, home of service, medical service. The whole place is just soaked in that spirit of service and love for humanity. So I can't say that I had any distinct, separate experience of the mother, but I can say with great emphasis that the whole experience, the whole week of our time there, was one of the high points of my life. Even just walking down to the Ganges and then walking back and seeing what you saw there. I mean, the whole place is just soaked in this atmosphere of sacredness, joy. Yes. Anything else from anyone? All right. Well, we'll call it a night then. Let me just say that it's a joy to be in this season, this holy season. As Dr. Majumdar pointed out, as it happens, Christmas Day is also the day of Gita Jayanti, the day of the so-called birth of the Bhagavad Gita. And so that is an especially double blessed day. And of course, the astrologers tell us that we just had at the solstice, and the fact that it actually happened on the solstice apparently is astrologically very important. We had this grand conjunction of Jupiter and Venus, not Venus, Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter and Saturn. And so, which is said to usher in a 200-year period of very beneficial transformation. So we're told. Now, the Swamis that I was close with, the Swamis Prabhavananda and Swami Swahananda, they both took this attitude toward astrology. They had believed in it, and but their attitude was, it was like a weather report. This is what's going to be the astrological weather, so to speak, the weather represented by the effects of the gunas. And so this is where the skilled astrologers give us some weather report. Now, just as we go out in the weather and we give ourselves the benefit of knowing what the weather is going to be and preparing for it and making use of it when it's useful, and so on and so forth. This attitude is to be taken according to the Swami's tour. The forces that are represented to us as astrology. So we just entered something remarkable, and now then and of course on Thursday evening at 7:30 we'll have a short worship service where there'll be food and other things, the usual kinds of things offered to the Lord Jesus. And then we'll have the nativity story, the Annunciation and the Nativity and the visit of the wise men and so on. So that'll be on Thursday. And then on Sunday, joyously, I will give a talk that I've been waiting to give for some years, and that is the Transformation of Scrooge. This wonderful story written by Charles Dickens as A Christmas Carol, and the movies made about it, from it, usually are just titled Scrooge. And so it is the overnight transformation of a wretched old miser and sinner to someone who's opening out into sainthood. So it'll be fun to discuss that with you.
It's a beautiful movie, Brother Shankara. I watched it. It is just wonderful movie.
Yes, the movie she's talking about is the 1951
Yes.
Scrooge.
Yes.
It was starred an actor by the name of Alistair Sim in the role of Ebenezer Scrooge. And he captured that character absolutely. You can find it online.
It's full movie is there on YouTube. Full
Yeah.
movie, 1958 version.
1951.
51. Right, that's right.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Remarkable special effects for the time, so on and so forth. And it's a wonderful, wonderful film.
There's a lot of human psychology, child psychology in it.
Oh, yes.
So much human psychology and the childhood, how it reflects your adulthood.
Well, Charles Dickens was a great.
Yeah, he's a great writer. Yes, exactly.
Not only a great writer, but a great appreciator of human beings.
Yeah, it's a great movie. That's very nice. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? All right. O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourned in lonely exile here, until the Son of God appear. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. On Sunday, we'll talk about how the awakening of God with us, Emmanuel, in each of our hearts is the transformation. That's what transforms us. So, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind. May you go forward in the mother's loving and protective embrace. Jai Ma, Jai Sri Ramakrishna.
Thank
Jai,
you.
Jai, Jai. Good night, all. Until those of you who join us tomorrow night, we will have class tomorrow night and study Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. I can't promise there'll be anything about Christmas, but we'll bring that spirit to it. So until then, or until the next time we see one another, Jai Shri Ramakrishna, Jai Ma. Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Good night, Brother Shankar. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, good night.
Good night.